how's it going, everybody? Scott Spreitzer here with Doug Upstone. We are DocSports.com. We're talking Game 2 between the Hawks and the Bucks on Friday night. Milwaukee at home laying 7.5 in this one or thereabouts. 226 is the total at most spots. Doug, my one caveat with the Bucks that came into play in Game 1. First of all, this isn't the caveat. They are the more talented team as far as top to bottom depth is concerned. But the caveat, boy, they sometimes live or die by the three, and they certainly did it on Wednesday. They made 8 of 36 three-pointers. It does make handicapping a little more difficult with this basketball team when you have to try to decide, are they going to make their threes? Are they going to miss their threes?
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, well, actually, both teams were pretty pathetic from that standpoint. You just said 8 for 36, and I think the Hawks were 8 for 32 in this one. So, I just thought it was a really strange game, just in general. And especially in the first half, and and somewhat in the third quarter in particular, the Bucks, at times they just scored at will. I mean 1-2 passes, easy baskets, and you just thought, here they go, okay, and that they're going to just take off, but then just it never happened, and then they had no answers for Trae Young, and I don't know about you, Scott. This is just an opinion on me. I don't think I've ever seen a player his age in the NBA who, on a team that really is just up and coming, get as many calls as he does. That his foul, he got fouled after he shot the ball, and they gave him 3 shots. I'm just amazed by that. The NBA has always been, you have to earn your stripes. But anyways, so I just thought it was an odd game, and Young, the strategy the Bucks used clearly didn't work. So I don't know. I think the side seems like a hard choice, even at 7.5. What do you think?
I was a little surprised that they didn't take it to Trae Young when Milwaukee had the basketball a little bit more. I really felt that the key to defeating the Hawks, well, first of all, make your threes, but also was to get Trae Young more engaged when he's on the defensive end of the floor. And I didn't think they did a real good job of that. And you would think with Holiday, that's something they got to focus on, is really trying to make him play D, maybe disrupt a little bit his game plan on the offensive end. So didn't really happen. Listen, I got a couple of notes for you. I mean, the Bucks going into last night, or we're recording this on Thursday night, but going into Wednesday's game, they had been home chalk 115 times under Mike Budenholzer. They've not only covered 58% of the time, but the average margin of victory, and that includes the losses in those 115 games, was 12 points per game, 120 to 108. And on the defensive end, they do play a little bit more of a deliberate brand of basketball. And what I mean by that, they don't really put a ton of pressure on the guys who are bringing the ball up the floor. They are more into denial when the team gets on their half of the court with the basketball. And that's the kind of defensive play that has been giving the Hawks problems this season. They had only covered going into that game 7 of their previous 28 against teams that are low pressure, that don't force more than 14 turnovers per game. That's Milwaukee. But they handled it quite well. Trae Young goes nuts, so as you mentioned, was unstoppable. Listen, this is one of those instances where I don't know if you can count on these situations. I mean, the Hawks, they were 6-18 against the spread as a dog of 6.5 to 12 points. They lost those games, those 24 games, I should say. They were outscored by 16 points per game. This is not normally where the Hawks play well, but they did. And again, it was partially due to Milwaukee. You know what I'm looking at, Doug? I'm looking at 226, and I know this is a couple of points higher than it was in Game 1 by the time the game closed, but I'm looking at the over. And one of the main reasons is I think you're going to see, again, same style of basketball, and I'm thinking that even if the Bucks only hit 1 or 2 more trays, that Atlanta's probably going to hit 1 or 2 more trays. And you're talking about 229 points in Game 1. I think they probably get about 230 or so in Game 2.
Yeah, and this one, on the side, the key to me is that the Bucks, for the Bucks to cover, is that they just have to do a better defensive job, and especially with Young, it's not so much the scoring. I mean, obviously, you don't want to have some guy score 48 points, but he had 11 assists. Okay, and so, and I mean, Collins, he just set him up for dunks the entire game. So I think that's what the Bucks have to do to really, to be a factor in this game and to cover the spread. They got to take away the options. Okay, if he gets his points, he gets his points.
Yeah.
But if they can take away all that, okay, they got a much better chance. Now, as far as the total, Scott, you and I are going to disagree on this one, okay? And that's good. I like when there's a little back and forth with these types of things. I looked at the total, and the teams took 197 shots, okay, and it only went over 226 by 3 points. Now, I agree with you on the 3-point shooting. I think that they made 16 3-pointers. They averaged 26 combined. So is there going to be more 3-pointers made? I don't think there's any question about that. However, the Bucks in the playoffs, this was their second worst game in terms of points allowed and in terms of shooting percentage allowed. And in the playoffs, they're holding teams 11.7 points per game per 100 possessions. I think they're going to come out with a different defensive mentality here, and I think they're going to look to really stick it to Atlanta here. So I'm going to go under, and like you, I have one caveat. In the last 10 games that the Atlanta Hawks have won back-to-back games as underdogs on the road, in their next game, they are 10-0 under. So I'm going to take the under on this one.
Well, they just got done playing 7 games against one of the most inept offenses we've ever seen in the playoffs. So there you go. Right back at you, big guy. I'm just kidding. But, they took out a team that's, the poster child for, ineptitude at times. Not all the time. And the one thing that I'll point out in your favor is that over the last 2 weeks, Milwaukee's got the best they're number one in points allowed per 100 possessions.
Yep.
Over the last couple of weeks. So there is that going for you. There's no doubt about that. But so we're going to go over and under. Doug's going to be under. I'm going to be over, and we'll see how it goes on Friday. Don't forget, folks, $60 free account is available for those of you who are not yet a member at DocSports.com. You see the little stripe across the top, the banner, free $60 account. If you're not yet a member, you click on the link below the video, get yourself set up for that free $60 account, and then you can use it on any of our daily packages, Doug's, mine, anybody else on the roster at DocSports.com. So be sure to jump on board. Doug, I've got pitching matchups, in front of us for the weekend, and I might, not 100% sure yet, because I'm not one of those guys that predicts that I'm going to have an 8-star play a week in advance, but I'll tell you what, right now, Saturday's pitching matchups are showing one where I might have my first 8-star play of the entire season. But again, I want to see how the bullpens go, things of that nature, before we jump into that. But potential for that in Major League Baseball. What about you, sir, this weekend?
Yeah, there's a few things, and we're going to actually be talking about some of these different games and some other videos here shortly. But yes, continue to go on a nice run. I know you have been on a nice run the entire season. Since May 9th, it's been extremely good at 57-32 as we do this video. So yeah, just looking forward to continue going. And if the opportunity presents itself, we'll have some big plays. If not, definitely we'll have some cards with 2, maybe sometimes 4 plays in them that have been cashing regularly. So let's get it done, Scott.
So focused in baseball, we could even find Jimmy Buffett's lost shaker of salt. That's how it's been. Anyway, he's Doug Upstone. I'm Scott Spreitzer. We are DocSports.com. Let's put him in the win column.